And we are live. So welcome everybody to the Think and Grow Rich Mindset Ministry Mastermind. I'm Amber, your mindset ministress of the dark. And these are my flying monkeys. These are the flying monkeys. But so we're coming to you from all over the country. We are students of Napoleon Hill, and we are working on mastering our thoughts through the 17 Principles of Success and the Your Right to Be Rich, the Science of Getting Rich workbook from Napoleon Hill and W. Clement Stone. We are on self-discipline, which is success principle number 9. We're in part 3. Self-discipline. We broke it up into 3 different weeks because there's just a lot to learn and we didn't want to miss out on or rush through anything at all. So before we get started, I just want to introduce our mastermind group. So we have Phil McGarvey from San Francisco.
Morning.
Markel Thompson from Chicago.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning.
He's our poet and he knows it.
Yes.
We have Hakeem Alexander from some undisclosed location in Hollywood, California.
Hello, everybody. How you doing this morning?
And Elvira Smith from Daniel McCall from, are you in New Jersey or Pennsylvania, or is there a difference?
New Jersey.
Okay.
Right outside of Philadelphia. Good morning.
There we go. Cool. And Aaron Riggs from, are you in Los Angeles? Where are you, Aaron?
I am on the central coast of California, about halfway between San Francisco and Los Angeles.
Yoo-hoo! That sounds cool. Big Sur. We'll just
About 35 minutes to Big Sur.
all right, we'll just call you Big Sur. That's Aaron. Aaron, our Big Sur. All right, everybody. So I'm a little giddy. It's really windy here in Key West, and I've been setting my daughter up with a lemonade stand at the exact same time that I planned this hangout. Actually, I had a couple hours before, but that's always challenging to practice self-discipline when trying to have a 12-year-old child start their own business, trying to direct her to be an entrepreneur, and it's really hard to control my leadership. My leadership assets, so we'll call them. They turn right into defects, though, when dealing sometimes with your kids. So I'm working on that. And if you hear rumbling in the background, it's the wind blowing my door back and forth. So I'll mute myself out when we're talking later. But we're going to get right into the reading. We are on self-discipline. We're going to be on the 6 controllable departments of the mind. That sounds awesome, doesn't it? So we'll go right to screen share like we do. And I'll do my reading. Tell me if you can see everything. I think you should be able to. Okay, so we're on the right-hand side where that diagram is, right above it. It says the 6 controllable departments of the mind. An understanding of the 6 departments of the mind that are subject to conscious control will give you new information with which to approach this principle of self-discipline. The following diagram presents the process of thinking. The diagram shows the factors that constitute the mechanism of thought and the 6 departments of the mind that can be consciously controlled. So we can just peek at it real quick. Infinite intelligence is on the outside and on the tops of the subconscious mind. Then we have ego, reason, emotions, imagination, conscience, and memory. Those are the controllable compartments. And then we have telepathy and the 5 senses. Okay. There are 10 factors that make up the mechanism of thought. The subconscious section of the mind has access to all departments of the mind, but is not under control of any other part of the mind. Infinite intelligence is the source of all power of thought, all facts, all knowledge available through the subconscious section of the mind. The subconscious, then, is the connecting link between the mind and infinite intelligence. The boxes in the diagram represent those areas of the mind that we can control. The ego, or willpower, has control over all aspects of thought. The faculty of reason controls opinions and judgments. The faculty of emotion is the seat of most actions of the mind. The faculty of imagination determines personal vision and creativity. The conscious section of the mind determines and attempts to keep moral values in place. Conscience, sorry. Memory is the warehouse of all thought, experience, and sense impressions. The five senses, sight, sound, taste, smell, and touch, are the mind's contact with the external world. The senses become reliable only through strict self-discipline. Otherwise, they are not reliable. In exactly the same way, the emotions and memory are not reliable except under self-discipline. These are the 6 departments of the mind under your control, and they are the basis of self-discipline. As you will see from the boxes in the diagram, these 6 departments are the ego, which is the source of willpower. It acts as a supreme court with the power to reverse, modify, change, or eliminate the entire work of all other departments of the mind. The 2 is the faculty of reason. This is where you may weigh, eliminate, and properly evaluate the products of your imagination and emotions. 3, the faculty of emotions. Here is generated the driving force that sets your thoughts, plans, and purposes into action. 4, the faculty of imagination. This is where you create ideas, plans, and methods of attaining your desired ends. 5, the conscience. This is where you test the moral justice of your thoughts, plans, and purposes. 6, the memory. This serves as the keeper of the records of all your experiences and acts as a filing cabinet or hard disk for all sense perceptions and inspiration from infinite intelligence. The ego, seat of the willpower, is the major portion of you that is of value. The rest of you is a collection of chemicals. If scientists separated you into the various chemicals, you would be worth less than the price of dinner at the average restaurant. The part that is beyond price, however, is the ego, which you will wish to learn to control and discipline. It may represent anything of value in life, from poverty and ill health to whatever you visualize as your portion in life. In other words, you set the value on your ego by bringing it under your direction so that you rule it, but it doesn't rule you. The ego is a wonderful thing. Some egos are too weak and lacking in courage to amount to anything. Some egos are overinflated. We are familiar with both types of persons. One is just as bad as the other. There is a halfway point at which you must arrive in the feeding of your ego. Average people need to feed their egos and build their courage so they can take possession of their minds. I'm just going to skip a little bit, a couple paragraphs. Let's see. The subject of self-esteem has become very popular. Now we're skipping the self-esteem here. The subject of self-esteem has become very popular in schools. In California, a state task force on self-esteem concluded that if students don't value themselves, they will act in such a way as to bring discredit upon themselves. There is the self-fulfilling prophecy: if you think you are worthless, you will prove it by acting in such a way as to get the agreement of your low self-worth. Let's see. Believe that you are of infinite value. In fact, you are, since you are an aspect of infinite intelligence. It is a truism. God doesn't make junk. Once we love and respect ourselves, we can do anything. But we can't truly love ourselves without first disciplining the mind and focusing on our purpose. And the next one is, this is the story about Edward C. Barnes when he hitched a ride on the boxcar. I'm sure we've all read that one, so I'm going to skip it. Your ego is the seat of your willpower, and as such, it must be fed to remain strong. Whatever that takes, it must be found and regularly administered. You must include some of your ego stimulator in your daily mental diet. A strong motive is the thing that never fails. If a man's motive is deep-seated and his desire obsessional, it will naturally build his willpower. Always treat your ego as your most precious possession and protect it as carefully as you would very fine diamonds. You certainly would not leave diamonds around for anyone to pick up. Yet most people leave their ego wide open for anyone to come in and pollute with thoughts of fear and worry. Do not let people know your secret thoughts. A wise teacher once said, "Don't cast your pearls before the swine." Do not let people with negative mental attitudes have access to your mind. Do not harbor worries and fears that your mind might generate. Devise a technique to protect your inner self, your ego, from the damaging effects of negative ideas. As you have already learned, here are 3 walls of outer defense to keep around your ego. Starting with the outside wall and working inward, the first wall is just high enough to bar the people who really have no business getting to you to take up your time. Oh, that's my dog. This outer wall has several doors, and it is not too difficult to enter one of them. If a person can establish a reasonable right to your time, open one of these doors and grant entry. But let this person first establish rights. The next wall is much taller, and there is only one door in it, with which you must guard very closely. The number of persons who get through that door should be comparatively small. Before that door swings to admit anyone, that person must have established the fact that she or he has something you want, or that you have something in common that will be mutually helpful. The third and final wall is so tall that no person in the world can scale it, and it has no doors. No one is ever allowed inside that wall because it surrounds and protects your ego. If there was a door to your ego and personality, and you allowed anyone to walk in and out, they would take away many things that you would not want them to have. Throw a protective wall around your mind. Make this a place where you can retreat by yourself and where you can commune with infinite intelligence. Okay, so we'll stop there. Oh my gosh, my house is going to be noisy today. Sorry, you guys. Okay. So, anyways, that's great stuff. I love the mind. That's why I love what we're doing, you know. I'm already thinking, like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do after we finish number 17? I have an idea, so hopefully you guys will. I don't know, maybe we can do this for a long time. That would be awesome. But I've definitely been protecting my mind. You know, I'm so selective about, like I said last week, who I even answer the phone for nowadays, you know. And the weird thing is when I start having a conversation with someone and they are negative, you know, I get uncomfortable. I get that, like, uneasy feeling inside, like a disturbance in the force, I call it, you know. and I have to, like, almost get away from them. It's really weird, but I've gotten so selective now. And even with the TV, you know, I used to watch Good Morning America, like, religiously every day. I would just wake up, turn on Good Morning America for about a half hour, like at 7 o'clock. And now I record Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon at night, you know, and I only watch TV from 7 to 7:30 in the morning, just while I'm kind of getting woken up, have a cup of coffee, and then get my daughter to school. But I can't even watch, like, any of those morning shows. I have to turn on the comedy monologue for Jimmy Fallon, you know, and just watch some comedy and some comic relief, and it's as fast as I can to get it on the TV, you know, and get that other crap off. And then I don't watch, you know, anything else really at all anymore. I just like to listen to the audiobooks and talk to you guys. It's strange. I don't know. It's almost like becoming a mental hermit in a way, but not really. Just so selective, right, about what we allow in. Like, if there's a dead animal that got hit by a car, sorry to say that, but or something, lots of times I won't even look at things. Like, I won't even let my eyes focus on something that is not positive, you know, because I just don't want that image burned into my subconscious mind. And I do that all day, like everywhere I'm at. If there's something that's like that, I won't look at it and, you know, cancel my thoughts if they're negative. You know, and we've all gotten so good. You know, we correct each other when we say certain things in our words. And I love that, you know, because we're being conscious of the words that we use, because whatever words come out of our mouth and whatever we put into our sight, you know, through our 5 senses, basically are going into our subconscious mind. And then whatever's in our subconscious mind is going to go out and manifest with infinite intelligence. And we know that we're so powerful with our thoughts that we have to just be really, really careful about what we are projecting in and projecting out. Our sending and our receiving stations, right, of our minds. So who would ever thought that the mind is, I mean, I love the mind. To me, it's so fascinating. So I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say. So why don't we start with Phil today? If that's okay, I'm going to go down the line this way. Good morning, Phil.
Good morning. What comes up for me came up last week and this week as well is the importance of focus. And the self-discipline is reflected obviously in the major definite purpose formula, the self-confidence formula, and just the idea of repeating this every day. But one of my favorite works by Napoleon Hill is Outwitting the Devil. And I would just like for a minute just to read a couple of selections from here. And keep in mind, this is the devil speaking now, in Hill's words. For millions of years, I have dominated earth-bound creatures through fear and ignorance. Those who do little or no thinking for themselves are drifters. That's one of my favorite terms that he uses. A drifter is one who permits himself to be influenced and controlled by circumstances outside of his own mind. Again, this is the devil. That is one of my cleverest tricks. I enter the minds of people through thoughts which they believe to be their own. Those most useful to me are fear, superstition, avarice, greed, lust, revenge, anger, vanity, and plain laziness. And then parents, school teachers, religious instructors, and many other adults unknowingly serve my purpose, that's the devil's purpose, by helping me to destroy in children the habit of thinking for themselves. It's no wonder that this book was basically not published till about 70 years after it was written. And I just find that really speaks to the whole subject here and just really nails it. Back to you, Amber.
Unmute myself. I'm multitasking. I love Outwitting the Devil. That is, the book Outwitting the Devil is totally exactly what addiction is about. The way addictions to people's minds that's exactly what it is. And if people that have problems with addictions would read Outwitting the Devil, that's the answer right there. So it's really interesting. And don't mind me, I am going to take a couple pictures of everybody today because we need more pictures to change the thumbnails on some of our videos. Because every once in a while, it's not very pretty picture.
Yeah.
So I'll try to multitask a little. I'll just do like 3 pictures of everybody. So I know it's a little distracting, but I'll force myself.
All right.
Okay. All right, Markel. Good morning.
Good morning, good morning. Phil, that was good, man. I love that book. I read the whole book in 2 days. I'm going to have to read it. But the thing that stood out for me was that the 5 senses are the mind's contact with the external world. The senses are only reliable through strict self-discipline. Otherwise, they are not reliable. And I realized that growing up, we get conditioned to live through the 5 senses. That way, we come and lose contact with our inner selves. We go to school with this, pay attention, look here, do this, do that, or that don't taste good, and stuff like that. The 5 senses, like he said, is only reliable through strict self-discipline. So if you only relying on your sight to see what you see right in front of you, it might look bad to you, and you probably think that you can't do nothing about it. Or anything that has to do with the external world, it starts on the inside first. A lot of people go searching for stuff that's already inside of them, and that's what I gather from it. So I'm going to just keep it brief. Thank you. Back to you, Amber. You muted.
Sorry, I keep forgetting. I'm taking pictures and muting myself. So you know what that reminded me of? I read something last night. And it was not out of any of these books. It was actually out of a recovery book, but it was saying that I'm so grateful for the power that gave me the ability to see the good in the world around me. And I wonder if that has to do with, because when we read that about the five senses being reliable or unreliable, depending on, if we have taken possession of our minds. So basically, when we take possession of our minds, we're trying to see the good in everything, right? And when someone's a drifter and not having possession of their mind, which was me at one time, of course, I saw the bad in everything. So maybe that's why the five senses are only reliable when we have possession of our mind and we're looking for the good in everything. That's when they're reliable. That, I don't know. That just came to me because I was trying to figure that out. I was like, what's the difference? Why would they be reliable one minute and not the next? But it depends on if we're looking for the good or the bad, I think. And if we're looking for the bad, that's a warped, twisted view of reality. So obviously our senses are not going to be reliable, right? You think so?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
All right. Cool. Yeah, Phil?
Yeah, I was just going to say there was a key word that Markel used in the beginning, and it's what you're talking about as well, and that's conditioned. And that's what this is really all about, is conditioning.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. Exactly. Cool. All right, Hakeem, you look like you're on the roof.
Hello. Ready? Yes. Hello, everyone. I just, from even the reading that you did, and then the comments from Phil and Markel, it just reminds me of this whole work, because from when I first read Think and Grow Rich, he talked about auto-suggestion, and that was introduced to him by the work of Emile Coué, and Emile Coué used to have a saying that he repeated to himself as auto-suggestion, which is really just another name for self-hypnosis, but he used to say to himself every day, so he used to say, day by day, in every way, I'm getting better and better. And I do a lot of work with hypnosis. I was doing it when I first read Think and Grow Rich, and doing a lot of reprogramming. And I actually went to school and graduated from a school for clinical hypnosis, and that's one of the main things that I use as my profession, as in work, is helping people to reprogram the subconscious mind. And I do it a lot through writing. And just what I've realized, though, overall, is that my main point that I think sometimes stands out from the way most people think of hypnosis is that I believe, from my experience and my understanding, that first of all, we are all being hypnotized at every moment, and at the same time, we are all very hypnotic to anyone who would come across us and experience us. And our choice really is not that we are not hypnotized, and that we can say, oh, I'm not able to be hypnotized, or that doesn't work on me. Our job is to choose what we are hypnotized by, because it's a neutral thing, just like a lot of other things. It's our mind. And in the same way, we need to choose what we also are influencing other people with, what we're hypnotizing other people with. And that's the sum of what Napoleon Hill's work really appears to me. Maybe that's just my bias from the way that I view the mind, but I really believe that, like I said, we're all being hypnotized all the time, and our job is simply to determine what it is we allow ourselves to be hypnotized with, and that we're also very hypnotic all the time, and it's our choice, if we care about people in the world, to choose what messages we're sending out and hypnotizing other people with. Of course, everyone has their own responsibility, but like in the Devil's what is it called? The Devil's Workshop?
Outwitting the Devil.
Oh, yeah, Outwitting the Devil. The Devil's Workshop. Well, I mean, the mind can be the Devil's Workshop. You can go to town there and program and play with your mind any way that he wants to. But that's, really how I view the understanding, and I hope that everybody sees that I'm in agreement. I'm agreeing with that statement. It's just that I gave my particular perspective, that it was probably influenced by Napoleon Hill and many thinkers like that, because that's exactly the way that I do my work. Because I just think that it's our job to really outwit the devil, basically, and by being ever vigilant in what it is we allow to come into our minds. But I also add something else to that, which is part of, the Think and Grow Rich mastermind we did before, which is a positive mental attitude and a pleasing personality, is because that's the message that we're going to be sending out to the rest of the world. So, both of those things are very important, and I hope that makes sense to everyone. Actually, I pretty much feel that it does, and I thank you very much for giving us the time. Back to you, Amber. I feel like we're on the news. Like, back to you, Amber.
Yeah. We can pretend like we're on the news. We can do whatever we want here. So this is Amber Beck, live from Key West, Florida. But Hakeem, I wanted to ask you real quick, what is your description of hypnotize? I think it depends on what your description is on how we see that, because I want to understand.
So hypnosis is interesting, and I'm taking this definition from the school that I graduated to. It happens to be, I'm proud to say, the first nationally accredited college for hypnosis. It's called the Hypnosis Motivation Institute in Tarzana, California. And the description that they use, and the one that I agree with, is that hypnosis is anything that attempts to control the human mind and thoughts by the influence of beliefs. And so it's anything that attempts to control or change the human mind and their thoughts by the influence of belief systems. And so you can see that that's a wide variety of things. And but the key is that it's anything that attempts to or does change the way people think and they behave through the influence of their belief systems.
Okay, cool. That's cool. Yeah, I guess that just means we're so, maybe that has to do with what he was talking about with the 3 walls, starting from the outside in. If we don't, yeah, right? Because if anything's attempting to change our beliefs, it can only do that if we allow it in through one of those walls, over one of those walls. And when we get possession of our own mind, we're selective about who and what we allow over each of those walls. And I'm pretty picky about even my first wall, and which, it's funny because I've never allowed myself to be consciously hypnotized, back when people would try. That's probably the old school way of that, but be interesting to talk about that further, that's pretty cool though, Hakeem. You guys are also awesome. Gosh, I have attracted just like the most amazing group of people. All right.
Done.
It's definitely a reflection of you, Amber. I was just thinking about that the other day,
Exactly.
And that's why we have to continue to this process of continuing upward spiral of getting ourselves higher and higher, because then that's what we need. That's what we're doing here. So, and I know we all appreciate it.
It's a law of attraction.
Yeah, I think so. It's pretty interesting because this whole panel, I mean, this is not like a Joe Schmo type of panel here. I mean, this is really just cream of the crop, awesome mind, just awesomeness people. So I'm so happy. I'm at a loss for words, but I'm just grateful to have found you guys. So, all right, Elvira, our queen bee.
Hey there, good morning, good morning, good morning. Just to answer your question, what are we going to do when we've gone through the 17 principles? It's just like Phil, he knows that. It's like, isn't it the Verrazano Bridge? Once they started painting, when they were over it, they start again. I mean, it's the same what Paul Hutchings does on the Think and Grow Rich call. Once you finish the book, you start over again. I mean, because the exciting thing about that is you have become a different person. So you read it in a way different way, and you have so much more to give in a different way. So, we're just going to do this till whatever. So this is great. I love it. I was sort of sitting here when you read, and I went like, the ego is your willpower. I had not thought about it like that. I'm still a little bit, I still have to come to terms with that, because Wallace Wattles also talks about the willpower. He even devotes I don't know who said that. I think Bob Proctor said that he even devotes 2 whole chapters to the will. So that is really telling us how incredibly important that is. But now, now it is the ego is your willpower. So I have to come to terms with that a little bit, and to protect your ego. Well, this is contrary to what you hear and what you read, because you know what? Many people say, oh, kill your ego, you know, and get rid of it. Well, Wayne Dyer says, coax your ego gently down the stairs and say just, okay, goodbye, close the door for a moment, and it's gone. It will come back. I have learned also that the ego has some very important tasks to do, because it controls that where you don't have to consciously think about. I mean, are you thinking about that you're breathing, or are you thinking about, oh, I better beat my heart now? No, you're not. Or, oh, I better do something with my digestive system, you know, because otherwise I'm just going to be like a balloon. No, you don't. So those are the tasks of the ego. So I have to come to terms with this. I have to really feel more about, you know, your ego is your willpower. So that's a good thing. And as Bob Proctor, my mentor, used to say, indeed, and I don't know if it's his or whatever, but I learned from him that your five senses are both a blessing and a curse. I mean, when you control them, as Markel said, when you learn to control them, they are a blessing. They serve you. But they are a curse if you have no flippant clue that you have those, and you're just all over like a cork on the water being blown away by the wind. Your senses, what you said, Amber, when you allow everything in, they're a curse. They're really a curse. So here is the challenge. This is the challenge that lies ahead of all of us. We need to very gently educate and train people about this. You know, I mean, I never got the class of learn to look inside or get to know yourself. So we haven't been trained at all in that. Thank God we somehow discovered it, and now we're here together, which is so great. Looking inside is one. Trusting what we find there is number two. That's even bigger, because you know what? As Earl Nightingale says, when you see a bunch of people, a big mass of people running one way, and you ask them, why are you running that one way? I don't really know, Bob. My brother asked me, you know. And if there are two people running the other way, as Earl Nightingale says, you better follow those two people, because they probably know what they're doing. The masses presume that whoever started this mass of movement knows what they're doing. Well, the scary part is that, as we know from Hitler, that it can go the wrong way, and people simply don't know when they're hyped up. So learning to accept what comes from within and trusting that is something that we're doing here. We're learning that every day, because if we really understood that, we would be at the level of Jesus. And we wouldn't be here, except we would be training others, but it would be very difficult because the masses are still against us. So, you know, we have to take responsibility when we are doing what we're doing, by trusting what is inside of us and bring that out and really trust that as much as we can. Yes, Hakeem, we're totally conditioned. I always say that the computer is but a weak derivative of what is literally ours. We're computers, and we program ourselves, we hypnotize ourselves by repetition, by doing the same thing, you know. Like, it's so easy, we do this every day, and there's nothing scary about it. Vroom. Listen to your words. You're programming yourself in whatever you say. I hear it every day, especially on the morning call. People are using the words, and I go like, oh, if they only heard themselves. You know, so important. We are constantly program ourselves, and unfortunately, we cannot delete the program. We cannot yank out the hard drive or the motherboard. So we have to use different ways to program ourselves in a beneficial way, and that's I think that's our task to do that. So those were just my little bit more than 2 chips. So thank you, Amber. Thank you.
And thanks, Elvira. Yeah, great stuff. Oh my God. You know, when I was reading the different boxes, the 6 boxes, or whatever they call them, of the factors of the mind, you know, he kept calling them faculties. The faculty of reason, the faculty of emotions. You know. So I think that's also when people lose their faculties. You know, maybe, like, I don't know if it's senility or mental illness, where people lose control of one or more of these compartments of the mind. You know, that must be where, like, insanity comes from.
Well, here, if I may throw in, here I come again. Who bought the book? Who bought the book? Who bought the book? You don't lose your mind. You don't lose your faculties. Excuse me, let me whack it in with a 6x8. You make the conscious choice not to do something with your faculties.
Yes.
Period.
Yes. Yes.
I rest my case. Get the book, $6.95. Oh my gosh! If I could get 10 cents
You need to
for
get
every
commissions.
Yes, yes, yes. All right, Amber, back to you.
Elvira, maybe you should do workshops on that. You know, that could be something. You have so much knowledge. You could do a work. Maybe one day, you know, in the future, we could have a big retreat or event here in Key West, and everybody can speak on their specialty, right? And we could have like a two-day event in Key West with all of us as the keynote speakers.
But you know what? I don't have any more knowledge or anything than anybody else. I'm just passionate about peeling away the veil, about allowing it in, about, you know, dishing it out. We all have access to the same stuff. We're all, well, I don't even know what the word is. We're all whatever the word is.
But that's what matters. But that's what matters over here, is that you have the passion for it, because a lot of people know stuff, but they're not out there sharing it. You know, that's the difference.
Thank you. Thank you.
Exactly. It's the passion. It's the purpose behind it. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Daniel, you're up, buddy. How's it going?
Good, cool. I just wanted to make sure I was unmuted there before I started chatting away. So, yeah. So, man, great stuff, everybody. I loved everything everybody said. It's kind of funny when Elvira was talking about the $6.95 holding the book up. It just reminded me of somebody saying before, you know, that it costs less to be rich than it does to be poor, because, you know, people that make money spend money on, you know, things that bring them value, and they don't cost a lot. The book costs you $6 or whatever. It's kind of funny. But something that came up in my head, like while you guys were all talking too, I just wrote it down here. I thought it was kind of cool and powerful. I'm gonna just go ahead and just say this little phrase I just thought of. I'll probably post it on Facebook too. You know, getting brainwashed. You know, we're all being brainwashed. Question is, who are you being brainwashed by? So I thought that little phrase just kind of came up in my head, like while I was listening to all you guys talk. You know. So kind of relating to like the hypnosis stuff that Hakeem was talking about too. And then back to like self-discipline, you know, and how we spend our time, things like that. When you know, Amber, when you were first talking in the beginning, you were talking about, you know, kind of like deflecting people and not answering the telephone and things like that from certain people because you don't want to spend your time there. And you know, and that's something that you know, as you have more success in your business as an entrepreneur, you will struggle at times, you know, with self-discipline of, you know, how you manage your time. And time is currency. You know, how we spend our time. You know, we get paid for our time, and time is our most valuable commodity. And it's very important to have good self-discipline when it comes to time. And you know, that's something that I'm always very cautious of. A lot of people, I don't have the same goals, vision, and dreams as myself and you guys on the panel, and probably most people that are watching this right here, right now, as you're listening to me. You know, don't wow, I just lost my train of thought there for a second. What was I trying to say there?
You're talking about time.
Yeah, that's it. That's what
time is currency.
Thanks. I appreciate you guys bringing it back to me there. I don't know why I just lost my train of thought. But yeah, you know, when it comes to time and, you know, how we spend our time, you know, is just so important. It's something that you know, that I've struggled with, you know, with self-discipline, and we have to be very disciplined about how we spend our time. A lot of people, like I was just saying, a lot of people don't have the same goals, vision, and dreams as us. You know, will come in our space and come in our time and take up a lot of our time. And they'll just be talking about things that are pointless and things that are disempowering, or they're talking about things that are negative, talking about the news. You know, Amber, I know you said that, you know, you don't like even, you know, seeing something for a second there. Or, you know, in the beginning, a lot of stuff you said resonated with me. You're saying you see something on television and you don't even want to look. You know, and the truth of the matter is that's not. You know, that's not, you know, spending your time, you know, wisely. You don't want to spend your time, you know, thinking about that, you know, because, you know, they say environment is stronger than willpower. So we can be in a bad environment, but we can actually control our own environment, and make sure our own environment is a good one, and we're surrounded by the right people. A lot of people say, I talk to a lot of people, I grew up around a lot of people that, that are pretty hood and everything like that, and they act like they're trapped in the ghetto and everything like that and all. But but it doesn't matter where you're from, or it matters where you're at. And we can always change our environment within another environment, what I mean, and and create a different reality for ourselves. So I kind of got rambling there for a second, losing my train of thought talking, but I hope you guys got some value out of the things that I was talking about, and I appreciate you all.
Thanks, Daniel. Yeah, no, good stuff for sure. We were talking about willpower. I think you mentioned willpower. But when we were reading the beginning of this, and it's mentioned that the ego is the most valuable commodity we have, that really blew me away, because I'm kind of off on a different tangent here, but the ego has always get such a bad rap. Have you guys noticed that? Yeah. It's edging God out, blah, blah, blah. And it's almost like we're trying, not being conditioned, but almost trying to be conditioned by outside forces, that we need to get rid of our ego completely, in order to be able to connect with infinite intelligence. But I think what he's saying here is basically we need to have a humble ego, basically, not too grandiose, and not so lack of self-worth or self-esteem. Like, it's like a healthy ego needs to be right in the middle, which reminds me a bit of humility. Not as bad as we think we are, and we're not as good as we think we are. Lots of times we just need to just accept who we are. But I don't know, I found that really interesting, that if you took all the other stuff away, we wouldn't be worth, if you took the ego away, we wouldn't be worth anything, if you broke down our chemicals, is what he said. Something like that. Yeah. Not just like, you know what I mean?
Like the price of a dinner or something like that, or something at the supermarket.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. I mean, just how important the ego is. I guess the ego is our personality.
They teach that at the hypnosis school as well, that there's the similar concept of balancing the ego, and they also teach something for people who don't have enough of it. They teach actually ego strengthening. So that's, an interesting look at that as well. That, it's for some reason we're told, get out of the ego. It's almost a negative form, a disempowering form of programming to tell people to ignore their ego.
You know what? I wonder if the ego is our belief about ourselves. I think that might be what it is. Like, you know what I mean? Our ego must be our sense of belief, our inner belief about who we are as a human being, So if I believe I'm, a worthless piece of crap, that's a low ego. And if I believe, I'm greater than everybody else, that's just too much of a high ego. So we need to have our beliefs just centered. Basically, we are who we are. We're no better than or worse than.
Image. I think it's about self-image.
Yeah, I think so. I think it is about that.
I think that, first of all, we need to embrace it. We need to love it. It's ours. We have it. God put it in us for a reason. And we humans are still not able to figure out what exactly it is, why we have it. So until that time, I just embrace my ego. There has been a whole tendency after the movie The Secret came out, just to kill the ego, and all that sort of stuff. Ego is bad. What I'm learning now, in this specifically today, is that the ego is very good. We got to protect it. We got to love it. That there is one thing, and Markel also pointed on that. We have to learn to discipline it. Like, we have to learn to discipline the mind. We have to learn to discipline the ego. We have to learn to discipline ourselves. That's what it's all about, And that is where our exciting, biggest challenge lies, when we are looking into that, and when we are making that actually our main job for this life experience. Because from there, once we can do that, everything will start to flow. That's the way I look at it.
Yep. I think we're on to something here. We're on to something big. All right, Aaron's back. He's dropping off and coming back a lot, so let's catch him while he's here. Aaron.
You got audio and video?
I mean, Big Sur. Hi, Big Sur.
Big Sur, yeah. You know, what Elvira was touching on about ego, that's kind of what I was thinking about this week, and you know, this broadcast really ties it in. You know, as far as me being a Leo, sometimes we have a problem with arrogance, so I've had to temper my ego. I'm a pretty big guy. I'm 6'4", 200 and some odd pounds, so you know, I kind of have to have a strong personality. But there's also times where my ego is totally deflated, and you know, I don't feel worth anything, and that's kind of the time that I call it, you know, centering or grounding, where I'll go out into like a green field, take my shoes off, sit on the ground, and just find myself and be with myself and understand myself as far as my ego, rather than being an arrogance. You know, I call it a humble confidence. You know, especially when you're tied into this infinite source of knowledge and energy and power. You know, you realize that you're just you. You know, you aren't the power, but you wield the power. And if your inflated ego gets you a little prideful, you know, you have to use your senses to understand that. You know, whether it's feedback from other people or feedback from yourself. You know, looking at yourself, what you're doing. Oh gosh, I'm acting like I own the world and everyone needs to be subservient, or I'm acting like I'm worth nothing and then everyone's walking all over me. You know, there's a definite balance that needs to be found in yourself. You know, who you are. You know, not everybody is 6'4", 200 and some pounds. I'm sure Dan might understand. You know, being a big guy, you walk into a room, all eyes on you. You know, it doesn't matter where you go. And it's, you know, it all ties in, you know, the ego, your senses, your different conscious mind levels. But, you know, being able to find yourself, you know, I found myself doing that several times this week, you know, where I was in positions where I had to have a strong personality, where I had to take the leadership role. But I didn't want to, you know, I had to temper my ego as not to be bossy. And there was also a couple other times where I had to be a follower. And rather than just being a subservient, blind follower, you know, programmed by the system, you know, I had to follow the lead of who I was learning from, and at the same time, allow myself the free thinking. You know, allow myself to think for myself, to perceive what's going on from my point of view, and to allow myself to say, yes, that is what you are feeling, that is what you are seeing, that is what you are smelling, tasting, you know, to relate that to where I am and where I'm going. You know, so that ego thing is kind of a big thing for me. That's something that I've really had to work on. You know, that I in the past allowed it to kind of run free, and through the self-help process, a lot of the Napoleon Hill stuff, a lot of the spiritual stuff, you know, trying to connect with God and the Christ consciousness has allowed me to take a conscious control of that, rather than just allowing the situations to control my ego, who I am. I know I'm always me. You know, sometimes I'm a little bit puffed, sometimes a little deflated, and I have to be aware of that to find, you know, my center of who I am. So I just, you know, wanted to add that, you know, because that ego thing is huge for me. It's huge. You know, I got to really be consciously aware of what's going on, so I don't get too inflated or too deflated. And back to you, Amber.
Thank you, Big Sur. You are big. See, I knew it. Cool. Well, you know what, Aaron? That's called practicing humility, basically, what you're trying to do. You know, and humility is a spiritual principle. It's not humiliation. It's different. Humility is what I was saying earlier. We're not as
humble
as bad as we think we are, or as good as we think we are. We're right in the middle, you know. What do you want to say, hon?
Oh, yeah, I made a little post this morning. I call it humble confidence. You know, you don't want to be inflated and arrogant, but at the same time, you got to be confident. You know, if something's dangerous, and you got to face it, you can choose fear or you can choose courage. You know, you can choose arrogance or humble confidence, or like you're saying, you know, the other end of being humiliated. You don't want to do the humiliation, or you don't want to do the arrogance, but you want to be humbly confident in yourself.
Right, exactly. You know, and remember, we can experience fear and courage at the same time, because courage is facing fear and walking through it. You know. So, anyways, that's awesome stuff. Let's get back to the reading, because we're getting close to the end of the hour, and I just want to finish this stuff up. This good stuff, and then we'll wrap it up afterwards. So hold on a second. Let me pull this up. Okie dokie. Okay, here we are. Ready? All right. The second controllable department of the mind is the faculty of reason, on which it is not necessary to comment at length. It is the judge of the superior court and weighs the creations of the imaginative faculty, modifies the expression of the emotions, and ratifies the decisions of the conscience. This is the faculty of the mind that is trained by your family of origin, culture, personal observations, study, analysis, and other legitimate avenues of approach to facts and truth. Decisions from this court may be appealed only to the Supreme Court or the ego. Interesting. The third controllable department of the mind is the faculty of the emotions. Earlier in this principle, we addressed the necessity for balancing the emotions, or the feelings of the heart, with the faculty of reason, or the judgments of the mind. Here will we develop a different aspect of the emotions. Consider the serious problems that arise in your mind because of the disappointments and failures of the past, and the broken hearts that occur as the result of the loss of material things or the loss of friends or loved ones. Self-discipline is the only real solution for such problems. It begins with the recognition of the fact that there are only two kinds of problems, those you can solve and those you can't solve. The problems that can be solved should immediately be addressed by the most practical means available. In so doing, many of the problems you thought to be impossible to resolve will almost magically be resolved or dissolved. The problems that are left and have no solution should be put out of your conscious mind. Oh, interesting. Let us think for a minute about this process of forgetting. Refer to it as closing the door on some unpleasantness that is disturbing your emotional equilibrium. Self-discipline, which means mastery over all emotions, can enable you to close the door between yourself and the unpleasant experience of the past. You must close the door tightly and lock it securely so that there is no possibility of opening it again. This is a way to treat problems you cannot solve. Those who lack self-discipline often stand in the doorway and look wistfully backward into the past instead of closing the door and looking forward into the future. Oh my God, that's so serious there. The only time that is real is now. It is crucial to remember this. Any time thinking about the past with guilt or regret is wasted time. All you can do with the past is learn from it. Similarly, when you look into the future with fear or worry, you are wasting time. All you can do with the future is plan for it intelligently. Stay in the present moment. This door closing is a valuable technique. It requires the support of a good, strong will, and you have a strong will if you have the departments of your mind organized and under control of your ego, as they should be. Door closing does not make you hard, cold, or unemotional, but it does require firmness. Self-discipline cannot permit lurking memories of sad experiences, and it wastes no time worrying over problems that have no solution. You cannot yield to the temptation to relive your unhappy memories. They will destroy your creative force, undermine your initiative, weaken your imagination, disturb your faculty of reason, and generally confuse the departments of your mind. Woo! This is major. You must place the power of your will against the door that shuts out that which you wish to forget, or you will not acquire self-discipline. This is one of the major services self-discipline can perform for you. It closes the door tightly against all manner of fears and opens wide the doors of hope and faith. We are not talking about repressing fearful or harmful memories. We have all had such experiences. The thing to do is feel the experiences fully, learn from them, and move on. Dwelling on the past will drain you of vital life force. Self-discipline closes the door against jealousy, hatred, revenge, greed, anger, and superstition. It opens the door to friendship, goodwill, confidence, and love. Self-discipline looks forward, not backward. It roots out discouragement, worries, and other negative emotion. It not only encourages the positive emotions, it forces them to come before the faculty of reason every time they express themselves so they may be kept under control. Self-discipline, sorry about the noise, self-discipline makes your mind strong. It enables you to take possession of your mind and exercise your God-given right to control your mental attitude. You do not have real self-discipline until you organize your mind and keep it clear of all disturbing influences. Every principle of this system of self-management must function through your mind and self-discipline. This will keep your mind orderly and become the controlling factor in the process of becoming successful. The faculty of imagination, the fourth controllable department of the mind, is responsible for all creative effort. It is the workshop where new ideas are created. Creativity springs forth from the subconscious, which in turn is linked to infinite intelligence. It is an invaluable part of the mind and is responsible for all progress in the world. Nothing new or different would ever be conceived if it were not for this faculty, imagination. The conscience is the fifth mental department listed under this section. It is the monitor of the mind which checks on the moral justice of our thoughts and actions. If the conscience is always consulted and its counsel obeyed, it is an invaluable cooperator. But when this procedure is not followed, be careful. Society has had to build many special rooms for people who did not obey their consciences. The view from these rooms is usually obstructed by bars. Interesting, huh? Okay. The last controllable departments of the mind is the memory. This is the filing cabinet or hard disk of the mind. It is the keeper of every experience of your life, good and bad. It will lose nothing. All events and experiences are permanently stored and can be recalled, but each person can control the attention and importance given to each conscious remembrance. Memory is the storehouse of all the sensory impressions you have received through your conscious mind, and every impression that you ever reached through your subconscious mind. Many things may be stored in your memory that have never reached your level of consciousness, but which can be called forth under certain circumstances by demand from the willpower, maybe, or hypnotism. When these six controllable departments of the mind are properly guided and coordinated with self-discipline, they will enable you to negotiate your way through life with a minimum of opposition from others. Self-discipline, then, is the procedure by which you coordinate the six departments of your mind and guide them in such a way that none of them gets out of control. Self-discipline will produce harmony in your mind. Thus, you will readily understand that self-discipline is one principle that every living person must master. Self-discipline must be followed, perhaps, more than any other principle of individual success. That's what we were talking about with mental illness and losing our faculties. Well, not losing them, but throwing them away. Right over here. All right, this brings us to the other four elements of the thinking process that cannot be controlled directly by the individual. You can adapt yourself to them, but you cannot control them. First of these is infinite intelligence. This will be explained in a later principle. You cannot discipline infinite intelligence. According to the best evidence available, it is the source of all thought energy. The second is your subconscious mind. This part of the mind is not subject to control by the individual. It is the connecting link between the conscious mind and infinite intelligence. No one can discipline it. It works in its own way. Its major function is to appropriate and act upon the dominating thoughts of the conscious mind. Sorry, I know it's really noisy in my background. I'm sorry. I'm going to reschedule that lemonade stand for 12 o'clock next week. One particular characteristic of the subconscious mind is that it will not take orders from the conscious mind. It acts only upon order of the emotions. This is one more reason for acquiring self-discipline over the emotions. The subconscious mind will carry out the instructions of the negative emotions just as quickly as it will respond to the positive. It makes no attempt to distinguish between these. This is why you do not want to entertain negative or self-limiting thoughts. Your subconscious will make them come true. The only control you have over the subconscious is gained by exercising self-discipline to impress your subconscious mind with your definite major purpose. Which is why we have so much emotion when we read that, or think about it. The third uncontrollable department of the mind is the sixth sense, or telepathy. This is the broadcasting and receiving station for messages that travel at vibratory rates above those perceived by the regular senses. Aha! It is obviously not subject to control except to a limited extent when the mind is stimulated by a mastermind association. Ooh. The fourth uncontrollable department consists of the 5 normal senses of seeing, smelling, tasting, hearing, and touching. They may deceive you. Examples of this can be found in the special effects of Hollywood, feats of stage magic, and optical illusions. It is necessary to check constantly the findings of these extensions of the mental faculties by submitting them to the presiding judge in the court of reason. They are disciplined by voluntary habits. And wrapping it up here, the last little section, the power of the will. Hello. All right, the power of the will. We cannot conclude this principle without a few special comments on the power of the will or the ego. This one division of the mind transcends all the others by overwhelming odds. We have already alluded to the willpower as the Supreme Court in comparison with the reason that is the superior court, or the second highest court, having jurisdiction in the mind. It would be almost impossible to exaggerate the importance of willpower. You may recall from your high school days that teachers of physics often tried to confuse new students by asking them what would happen if an irresistible force met an immovable body. Actually, there is no such reality. In the field of philosophy, however, there is an irresistible power known as the power of the will. The power of the will is truly irresistible. It may be said that the only limitation you have is the one you impose upon yourself by limiting the use of your willpower. That is why you are repeatedly warned throughout this study against self-imposed limitations. The willpower is so great that in numerous cases it has been known to stay even the hand of death. It has performed feats that have defied description. When an obsessional motive is backed by a strong willpower, the subconscious mind has been known to reveal to men and women information never before known. With a determined willpower, you can shut the door on any unwanted memories and open the door of opportunity in any direction of your choice. If you find the first door hard to open, you will try another and so on, until you find one where you may enter. The willpower is the supreme court of the human mind, and it sometimes implements and carries out its decisions. There are no shortcuts to the control of this power, but control of willpower does have a price tag. The price is understanding and applying all the principles of this system of self-management under the direction of self-discipline. A definite major purpose is the starting point of all achievements. Willpower under self-discipline will keep you going until you accomplish all your goals. You now have the key. What will you do with it?
That is just such amazing information. It's just like, wow, absolutely. I mean, really.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we're reading out of like the Emerald Tablet, you know. But one of the things like that I just got at the end, real quick. Oh my God, I look like I'm sitting in a wind tunnel. That's okay. Is that willpower? I never really understood that willpower can be aimed towards like beneficial things. I always thought of willpower, you know, because like where I come from, willpower, they always said like even the strongest of willpower can't control addiction, you know. And that's kind of what I was conditioned to believe, you know, that willpower is almost used to guard against negative forces. I never thought about willpower being used, you know, for good. I always just use it as fighting evil. But now I kind of see it. It was just a little weird wake-up call. Like, I mean, I never consciously thought about being able to use my willpower, you know, for good. I guess you could just say, you know, that I can use that to. I didn't know that was the force that gives me that drive to get what I want. You know, I never related it like that for some reason. Even though it was, I don't know. I just saw it just now. So, oh my gosh. All right. What do you guys think, Phil? Want to wrap it up? Tell me what your thoughts are on this and your final thoughts.
Yeah, I think that Hill, in the beginning there, when you were reading at the very beginning, mentions that believe that you are of infinite value. This is basically what Aaron was saying about being humbly confident. I love this stuff. And the thing that's so exciting about that realization is the fact that it's a choice, and it's a choice that we can make. And I'll just leave it at that.
I'm muted. Sorry, I keep muting myself.
I tell you you're muted.
Let's go to you, Markel.
All right. You know, I just want to say that, first of all, we have control. It's like once you realize that your consciousness, it grows with that. Because personally, when I was a little younger than what I am now, I used to hang around people that was a negative influence. You know, they would go and do certain things that deep down in my gut, you know, my gut would tell me like, nah, don't go this time. And every time I didn't go, they'll come back with a story like, oh, look, this just happened. So-and-so got beat up and things like that. So I was like, I'm glad I didn't go. And now I'm realizing what that really was. That was God. You know, that was my gut feeling. When you get a gut feeling, follow those instructions to the T. Follow those instructions. But self-discipline, this is what I got. He said, self-discipline makes your mind strong. It enables you to take possession of your mind and exercise your God-given right to control your mental attitude. And that's powerful because you can't let anything outside of you control what's going on the inside of you. Because if you let other people give you random thoughts or random things to see, the biggest thing when he just said, check the movies. You know, those illusions, they look so real right in front of you, and it gives you emotions. It gives you certain mental pictures that gets into your subconscious, because the subconscious mind don't know the difference between real or fake. So if you're watching those movies, you getting emotional, those are feelings, and you giving off vibrations, and by law you attracting that. So it don't matter what you seeing. That's why the eyes could deceive you right in front of you. And another thing, voluntary habits. Like these personal development, this is the hardest job ever. This is not no 9 to 5. This is a 24/7, and you can't get fired on your day off. So you got to always be conscious. You got to always be aware. It's all about your levels of awareness, you know, because like you said earlier, Alvira, we all have access to the same knowledge. So why is it other people walking around with different points of view? That's because of their level of awareness and where they are right now, because where we are right now, it's only right now. So you can do it right now. So you got to reach for the best thought at all times. That's what self-discipline is, because you know you can automatically have a negative thought. That's going to come easy. But you have to deliberately choose to have a positive thought at any given moment, no matter what is going on right in front of you. And that's what I got. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent. Oh, my God. Yeah, big time stuff. Yeah, and if we don't have control over the 6, it's just weird. Like I never broke it down to the compartments. But if we don't have control over our reason or control over our ego or our conscience, you know, once one of those gets or we allow that to get out of control, like say the conscience, that's how people end up in jail, you know, or reason and emotions. That's how people end up in jail and mental institutes. you know, and it's slowly people, I know the word lose, but people lose their mind. Basically, that must be where they got that, because like once you lose control of one of those faculties, slowly it gets, you know, out of there, and before you know it, I mean, I see people walking every day, you know, the mentally ill, you know, just doing the I don't know what you call it, the zombie shuffle around, you know, town, and it's just, you can see that that's what happened. It's really bizarre, you know. So I don't think any of us are going to get Alzheimer's. Yoo-hoo! Cool.
That's, you know, it's a choice. It's a choice. It's
Yeah.
a total choice. That's what it is.
It is a choice.
And you're in control, and you are in control always. And this is the most important thing. When you understand that, Alzheimer's, my dear, refusal to deal with the world as it is, hopelessness and helplessness, anger. Sit on that one. Sit on that. And I truly believe why we are so angry and why we constantly have all this negativity around us and more. And look at the movies, as Markel said. I mean, I was trying to pick a movie again for tonight. Holy Moses, in the red box, there's nothing but negative misery, so forget about it. Why are we so angry? Because in my book, this was downloaded into me, this is just me, I believe we have lost the way to get back in harmonious connection with God and allow God to lead us completely. That's why I think we're so angry, and that's why we have all this numbing stuff of drugs, of loud noises, of liquor, whatever, to numb it out, because we're in so much pain, we're so angry. That's just my 5 cents.
Wow, great stuff. Thanks, Elvira. Hakeem.
Hey, so you know, I really didn't have too much to take away from or to add to that, actually, except for, you know, I really just agree with the idea of once again, because it fits very neatly into my idea that we're all being hypnotized and we all need to be careful of what we hypnotize others with. And like Daniel said, you know, we're all being brainwashed, and you know, who are we or what are we being brainwashed by? And about you know, the ego and self-discipline, you know, a lot of times we just think that, oh, like you were talking about earlier, that it's to just stop all the bad stuff. And while we're doing that, we're just thinking about the bad stuff. But really our whole job is to not just think about defending ourselves, because we're always on defense, we're always just reacting, but instead to be proactive and to use that same energy to not only just try to defend and block things out, but to actively put the things in that we want, because it will replace. That's one of the best ways to eliminate something, is by replacing it with sometimes its opposite. I have this idea, if you can imagine with me for a moment, everyone, if you have like a nice, beautiful, crystal clear fish bowl, for example, and you know, you could fill it up with nice, clean, crystal clear water, and if you let it sit around for a while, eventually some of the water will evaporate, some of the water will get a little bit dirty, maybe a mosquito will plant their larvae in there, and it'll just turn into a big mucky muck. And the water really represents our consciousness. And on the other hand, you know, and all the muck can represent all the negative things that we think of in our life. But we have the opportunity to kind of turn on a nice flow of clear, clean water into it. And if you do this in real life, you'll see that when you start pouring water into something, eventually all the old, dirty, filthy, mucky water will, at first, if it was all dirt, if it was all just like a big pile of dirt, at first it would break up and turn muddy. But then eventually all the dirt will flow out, and if you keep on flowing in that clear, clean water, eventually out will flow the dirt, and there'll be hardly any dirt left, if any at all. And as long as you keep that flow of your constructive and positive energy going in, it will overflow out that dirt that was in there. And that's our job, is not to be stagnant and to not just be on guard against negative things, but to actively be in the game of generating and creating those things that we really want and desire in our life. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that's interesting. Hey, since you're there, don't mute yourself yet, Hakeem.
Yes.
We actually have a question by one of our viewers, and her name is Muriel, and she's asking, Does an ego pick up beliefs we are not compatible with for the sake of matching the people around us? Anybody want to? Yeah, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I actually absolutely agree with that, and we know that about ourselves if we just take a simple example of how we answer the phone or how we make phone calls, and how we also adapt the personality that sometimes people we're around. We start to speak a little bit in their accent and do things that they do. A lot of times, and you know what? I'm going to give us a challenge. Just right now, just based on that answer. I was going to do this at the end, but this is a perfect time to do this. We do absolutely pick up things from other people's egos in order to try, kind of get along with them, and that's not being independent. But think about this, and this is very controversial, but why is it that everybody says bless you when a person sneezes? It's almost such an automatic response. I did this experiment the other day. I was talking to someone because they were asking me about hypnosis, and I just pretended to sneeze. And all of a sudden, right in the middle of it, right after I told them that, I was like, a lot of people act like automatons and they do things without thinking about it, and they were like, everybody, bless you, bless you, bless you. So my challenge is to if you want to see how and understand this faculty of how we adopt other people's egos in order to get along with them, check out what happens when people sneeze and you don't say anything. I challenge you to do this. See what happens to people's personalities and their attitudes and the way they look at you. And I challenge you to also, if you sneeze, to see how the people respond to it. I mean, it happens every once in a while, or just look out for things like that. So I absolutely agree, and I want to let somebody else answer that question. So.
Excellent. I am so aware when people sneeze. I watch everyone else when someone sneezes, and it's funny. Sometimes I'll pretend to sneeze in a church just to see if I'll get blessed, and and I've done that and no one has said bless you before. And I was like, all right, you hypocrites. But I'll out little places like that by doing that. But thanks, Mariel. Thanks for that question. That was awesome. I'm so glad that she asked that question. Does anybody else want to add to that at all, or we'll go to Daniel? Hey, Danielle.
Hey, all right, cool. Yeah, I don't have too much to add to it. I mean, back to the topic of self-discipline. I just think I'll just speak about my own beliefs. I never like to say what I say is true. It's just my own beliefs, right? But for me, I believe that it's an ongoing thing, for forever. As far as self-discipline, is something that we need to work on a regular basis. I once heard somebody say to Les Brown, how do I motivate or help get that guy disciplined and stuff like that? And he took a step back and was like, it's a full-time job trying to keep yourself disciplined. It's a full-time job, trying to keep yourself, motivated, about what you want to do and whatnot. So it's a full-time job, just looking after ourselves and, keeping ourselves disciplined. Speaking of that too, it's relating to business too. The whole, when it comes to, you get on an airplane, right? And they ask you to put on. They ask you, put on the oxygen mask. They ask you to put on yourself first, and then once you do that, then you can help other people. And I think that kind of relates to it too, because we need to work on ourselves primarily first before we can help other people. Like Biggie Smalls, they say, you can't change the world until we change ourselves. That's one of his big sayings. So I think it's important to to constantly work on ourselves. It just personal development thing. It all just seems like it goes in a full circle all the time as I'm talking about this stuff. And it goes back to auto-suggestion. I mean, it's brought up all the darn time in these books. Auto-suggestion. When we're studying this stuff all the time, it's a lot easier for us to be disciplined because of auto-suggestion, because we have the stuff up here and we're constantly working on this stuff. So I encourage everybody, to continue, to work on yourselves and to stay disciplined, right? So that's it.
Thanks, Daniel. Good stuff. Aaron, Want to wrap it up?
Sure thing. You know, kind of thinking over this discussion, we were talking about will, ego, consciousness, hypnotism. It kind of, you know, I drew a picture in my head about, you know, the good and the bad guy that sit on your shoulder, right? The devil and the angel. You know, a lot of people can visualize this. And, you know, talking about losing your faculty or ignoring your mind, your consciousness, you know, it's actually something I learned in counseling that I went through. You know, it seems like people will have voices in their head. Yet if you realize that it's a self-dialogue, it can totally change the way you have control over it. You know, if you're just listening to the voices in your head, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that, that's a certain aspect of that gut feeling Markel was talking about. But you can consciously choose to make it a self-dialogue. Now, this is a technique I learned through counseling where rather than just hearing voices in your head and following them, you actually have a dialogue. Oh, this is what, you know, this is saying over here, this is what's saying over here. To have a clarity of your will, to have a clarity of your intention, to understand yourself and your ego, and in a way, self-hypnotize yourself. I mean, that's one of the things that I've really practiced, you know, in the self-help area is, you know, surround myself with auto-suggestions like positive people on a mastermind group. That's going to be positive input that I'm relating to, rather than being around people with negative attitudes, negative input. And, you know, having that self-dialogue of understanding my feelings, understanding my will, understanding, you know, what I'm accessing through my subconscious to the, you know, the infinite intelligence, it takes a self-discipline to not just, you know, like Markel was saying, you know, he felt the guts, but it takes a self-discipline to take action on that, you know, because you're tying into your emotions and all these things. You want to be with your friends. You want to be accepted as a group. That's a basic human need, you know, but to take your gut feeling and say, you know what, I'm not going to go out this time, that takes a conscious effort. It takes a little bit of self-dialogue of, you know, the negative emotions, which may be, you know, that fear of being not accepted, you know, to where you can accept being alone, accept your ego as yours, and understand it and relate to it. So when you get these gut feelings, you know, you're able to understand and make a willful decision to listen to it rather than just going, oh, there's my gut feeling, but I want to go hang out with my friends, so I go. You know, it really does take a conscious effort. It takes will. It takes a lot of self-discipline. And a little bit of self-hypnosis, you know, the auto-suggestion. You got to put that thought into your mind when that self-talk comes and the saying, oh, gosh, life is horrible, you can't deal with it. And the positive says, you can deal with anything, overcome it. You choose which one you listen to and choose which one you act on. And I think that kind of sums it up for my beliefs and how I kind of think about how it all works, you know, for me.
Yeah, I totally agree, Aaron. You know, it's about the voices in the head, you know. I think some people get insanity.
Self-dialogue, Amber. Self-dialogue. That's the healthy way. Voices are the way that get you behind bars.
Yeah.
You follow the voices, but you got to have a self-dialogue to bring it into the consciousness and to the ego.
Yes, so that's what I was going to say. I think that's what ends a lot of people in mental institutions, you know, is because the voices in the head, the self-dialogue, gets just completely so loud and so noisy in there that nothing else can be heard. Only the negative self-dialogue can be heard. And that's why working on the principles that we're working on help us to lower the volume of the negative self-dialogue, you know, and be able to raise the volume, or not so much raise the volume, but tune in to the voice of reason or the voice of infinite intelligence, you know, when we can calm the conscious mind enough to be able to program positive things into our subconscious mind, which puts out to infinite intelligence, then we can receive infinite intelligence that quiets. Infinite intelligence, like having conscious contact with infinite intelligence actually quiets our minds. It quiets that self-chatter. You know, that's what I usually call it. I usually call it self-chatter because it's so chattery. You know, so serenity comes from connection with infinite intelligence, and that's what we're working on developing right here. You know, and then it lowers the volume of the radio noise in our head, of all that chatter gets lowered, and being able to hear infinite intelligence isn't a high, it's not another voice, it's quiet. That's what meditation is, you know. It's connecting, and that's quieting the mind, being more in stillness. And that helps us to have the awareness of the good things around us. Anyway, that's just my take. Elvira, I bet you have something to bring us home with.
Well, you said something, you just said the word, you said serenity, and that immediately made me grab, excuse me, James Allen's book, As a Man Thinketh, and it says, calmness of mind is one of the beautiful jewels of wisdom. A man becomes calm in the measure that he understands himself as a thought-evolved being. And the last word is peace, be still. Calmness is power. So I'm complete. I mean, we've said such beautiful things today. I'm totally complete. It's magnificent. And I love you all. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Elvira. I know, I guess this is an awesome mastermind. And you know what it is? I hope that the people that are watching us are getting value out of this. And in value, I mean life-changing principles, life-changing ideas, life-changing suggestions. I don't like to use the word advice. Advice to me is something we give when we don't have any experience in it. But we're all experiencing this, so we're just offering our experience, our strength, and our hope to you guys that are watching. So what we want to ask you to do, what I want to ask you to do if you're watching this and you're getting value out of it, is to share this video and help us spread the word, for that other people can come and benefit from what we're sharing here. So there's a link on the YouTube video that will be uploaded in a few minutes. You can just take the link in the browser bar and share that on Facebook, or send it in an email to anybody that you think would benefit from this. You can send it out to your list or your friends on Facebook, whatever you have. And then there's another link in Google Plus if you want to watch it on there. And
leave us comments. Leave us some comments. Leave us comments.
We love the comments. Leave us comments on YouTube. Leave us comments here on Google Plus. Definitely, we'll answer your questions when you post them. We really want to thank Muriel for asking that question. And so everybody, if you could just stick around after we stop the broadcast, because I just want to talk to you about next week. And we'll just say bye for now and make it a great week, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Take care.
Bye. Be well.